That's great. So thank you for sharing that, all of you. And I guess anything we don't get to tonight that you feel, like just send me a note or we'll talk tomorrow. Call me. I'm here. We have like this is early enough, as it were, that we have time to like follow up with follow-up questions or ideas. So I guess I'll share a few ideas that I had, and I'll try to respond to in particular what you said, and we'll get through a bunch of things. And I have a stack of Haggadah to show also. That's always my favorite. I love Haggadah. So I guess I'll start with kids, and I'll just say I think it's okay for I think there's like a balance between having it be enticing for kids and educating them and drawing them into the traditions, and having it be an event focused on children. I think it's okay for young children to be for not everything to be about them. I think that's okay. And when our children were very young, we just put them to bed at their normal bedtime, and we did their main Passover Seder experience was lunchtime the next day. And this is when our kids, I think up until they were like 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe, I don't know. I think we just put them to bed 7, 8 o'clock, whatever we were into early bedtimes back then. We put them to bed. And then at lunchtime, it was like just our immediate family. And it was, and we just sat around the table, and they had their little Haggadah they made in preschool, and we did karpas and all the highlights, and we sang all the songs. It was like everything they knew, just focused on them. We had matzah, we did everything, and that was sort of like a kid's Seder that we did at lunchtime. And I think so just think about that. If some kids our children, if they stayed up late, they would still wake up early the next morning, and they would just be really, really cranky. So it just was never, we felt worthwhile to keep them up late. It was just, we always suffered. They suffered, and we suffered the next day. And so we rarely did. And as they got older, we tried to, they're at the Seder more. But we don't, if they want to go to bed, they go to, they're at this table for a big chunk of it, and then they play in the living room or they go to bed, and we're not like we don't keep them at the table. That being said, while they're at the table, we try to make it engaging for them. So that's like my general thing about kids. Some tips that we've done, and this truth is it's for kids, but not just for kids. If you go to Oriental Trading or some type of website of that kind that sells tchotchkes, we buy tchotchkes and just put them out on the table for kids or adults to play with. So if you're sitting at the table fidgeting, they're little, we got 53 little, very, very cheap plastic puzzles, those little things where a little metal ball, you have to go through a maze. It's just something that if you're sitting at the table and a little bit antsy, you can, occupy yourself with. And that's something kids and adults something to, and that's actually, I think that's in if I recall correct, it's certainly in the Rambam, and may even be in the Gemara about just putting things out at the table, that it should be a little bit different and that the kids should ask questions. So I think Rambam talks about, nuts or something, some weird, interesting snacks and treats on the table to that kids should realize this is different and special and ask questions. So we put little tchotchkes out, little inflatable beach balls, 4-inch diameter, just something to that it's a playful environment and kids feel welcomed. And honestly, adults like that too. Another trick that we've been using for many years is we give everyone little strips of paper. We just use a paper cutter and just cut little 1-inch or 1/2-inch strips of paper in different color, green, yellow, red, or whatever colors you have. And everyone next to them at their seat has little piles of these little strips of paper. And we say these are tickets, and one is for a question, and one is for an answer, and one is for a story. So at any point you'd like to answer a question somebody asks, or you want to ask a question or tell a story that something evokes in you, you just you take you have a ticket and you hand it in, and then you get a little piece of candy thrown at you. There's little bowls of candy, and myself and my wife, we toss candy to whoever. And this is again adults and children, because you can ask questions anyway, but by saying we want you to, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to engage and not entirely sit passively. And yes, there is a text that we're focused on, but you should really be extemporaneous and be curious and express that curiosity. We don't do I think some people do prepared little mini speeches and different. We don't do that. That seems very canned to me. But the kids and adults are should be invited to embrace their curiosity, and it's actually something I feel that really one of the best things that I feel like CJS does. Like the kids feel really empowered to like ask questions and answer them, and like, you know, hold forth on everything about the Seder and about their, you know, things they know about Judaism, and they do, and it's really shine at the Seder. And so the ticket system and the candy system like incentivizes that a little bit, and I think it's an invitation to everyone there, again, like engage, jump in, say things. So I think question, answer, story, I think there's the 3 colors that we do, and then little bowls of little mini candies. You can get Hungarian or wherever. Another like kids way for kids to be engaged. This is like a pre-Seder activity. We've had the kids most years make place cards for all the guests, and that, you know, if they decorate them, you know, depending on how old they are, they could either, you know, like our kids are old enough, they can write the names themselves and they can decorate them, right? Or you can divide amongst the children. The older ones could write the names, and then the younger ones could draw with crayons or markers names in the place cards. Place cards are actually a really nice way to like facilitate a large meal, because you can kind of situate your guests in a thoughtful way around the table, rather than have everyone just come and sit in a way that may not be ideal. Like if you have somebody who is a little bit older and maybe can't hear as well, so put them like right in the middle, right, rather than at the end, right? You may, you know, it's whatever the, you know, your system is, like just take a few moments and put the place cards out before guests arrive. I think that can go a long way towards like enhancing the experience for everyone sitting at the table. And like then the kids, it's like an activity for the kids to do Erev Yom Tov, to like decorate and stuff, and they feel, I think, proud about that. It's like a nice thing if they get, you know, I think like, you know, the guests can, you know, like, you know, grandma can take home the place card that her grandchildren made for her. Like it's sweet, you know, it's like a sweet memento as well that people can take home. And that's another like thing we've done with our children to involve them. We, in terms of Magid and how we do like sort of, you know, we also like not like your family of origin. We don't like have one person read the Haggadah. We go around the table during Magid. So there's like I guess I'm like presiding and like, you know, in terms of all the instructions, and now take the matzah and you're going to do this or whatever. Like somebody's giving instructions, telling people what to do. But for the Magid section, which is like the big bulk of the Seder, we just go around the table and everyone can read a paragraph, and we take turns in whichever language they want. And you know, Lisa, I think someone who's not Jewish could participate as well. Like they're there for, I wouldn't modify the Seder on behalf of somebody. We've had non-Jewish also family and extended family at Starim over the years. I wouldn't modify what you do for them. Like they're here, like they're at your home for a Seder, and you know, if it's like, you know, if they get bored, they'll go take a nap on the couch. That's also, we tell people, you want to go take a nap on the couch if you want, that's fine. You don't have to, you know, no one's a prisoner. You need to leave early, leave early. That was actually, when we worked at Princeton, we would finish the Seder at 12 or 12:30 or 1 or 1:30. And the students would like get up from the table and they would say, okay, now what? Where are we going now? And then when we moved to Chicago, all of our guests were kind of like trickling out by like 11:30. You know, people didn't have like quite the stamina as our college students. But we tell people like the couch is over there. If you get tired, go take a nap. You know, like no one has to be at the table the whole time. But I think if they're there, they let them participate. Let them read a paragraph too as you go around the table. And then in terms of, you know, and then when it's your turn, you could chant your paragraph Nehemiah in the melody of your Seder of origin. I think that's fine. Like everyone should really feel empowered to, when it's your turn, like belt it out in the way that you learned, or say it in whichever language you want. I'll say one more thing about timing, and then I'll talk about Haggadah. I'm sort of going through my timing is hard, right? Because the Seder time is supposed to be. Now, I'll just say a few words about that. It's actually in the Haggadah itself. It's one of the drashot, one of the learnings, right? There are two types of midrash. Midrash means like explaining psukim, explaining verses. There's midrash Haggadah, which is looking at verses in the Torah and expanding the story. Out of that, we have that in the Haggadah, like the Arami Oved Avi, my father was a wandering Aramean. Those 4 verses get all the details of the story emerge from those verses. That's Midrash Haggadah. That's like a genre of rabbinic literature. And there's also Midrash Halakhah, where we look at verses and figure out the legal meaning, like what was the Halakhah based on these psukim, these verses. And we have that in the Haggadah as well. That's the Yachol mi Rosh Chodesh. That could it be that the mitzvah to tell the story starts Rosh Chodesh? No, the Torah says, right? We tell the story while we're eating matzah. So all of the mitzvot of the Seder are nighttime mitzvot. So in Chicago, in daylight saving times, like nighttime is relative, you know, is late. That's hard for kids and adults. Some kids can take, I don't know, like some people take naps. Like maybe you could take a nap, sometime in Erev Yontif, so you can help you stay up. I know. I think the Lepatons, who were here before, I think all of their kids took naps on Erev Shabbos and Erev Pesach, and that's so they were able to like stay up and host like every, So my kids would not work for us, but for our children. But I try to sneak in a nap sometimes on a Erev Yontif just to give me some extra energy. But in any event, in terms of timing, so there's a little bit of fudging you can do. I'll say, so one thing you can do, all of the introductions and giving, think when people come and you take off your coats and you say hello to everyone, people give you wine, you put it on the counter and you sit around the table and you find your seats and you pour the wine. We have a custom in our family. Everyone pours wine for someone else. Like the wine is poured for you. So you got to open all the right bottles and you pass it around. I want red, I want white, I want sweet, I want grape juice. You do all of that. Okay. You sing that Kadesh Orchatz, which is also like an introduction. It's not actually a mitzvah. That's just the song at the beginning. So that all of that can take 10, 20, 30 minutes, maybe, depending on how many people. And that all can take place before the earliest time to get things started. So that's one way to like shave a little bit of time and start a little bit earlier. Second, you can use different, and this I clarified with one of my teachers, Rabbi Dov Linzer. We put it up on the shul website on the Pesach resources page. His answer to me, but it came from the shul. There are different definitions of nighttime in Halakhah, right? We use a very strict definition when Shabbat ends, before we light the Havdalah candle and do work after Shabbat. That's like a 42-minute, it's like really dark after 42 minutes. It's not the darkest, but it's like pretty dark at 42 minutes. There are like earlier times, which are other definitions of nighttime in Halakhah. The Vilna Gaon thought, I think, 13 or 15 minutes after sunset, that was enough to be dark. So something like Kiddush, the first cup of wine, which is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, it's a rabbinic mitzvah, not a mitzvah d'oraita. You could probably, like 15 minutes after sunset, you could have Kiddush. And then you would wait until 42 minutes after sunset for the biblical mitzvot, which begin with Magid, when you start telling the story. So you do Kadesh, Orchatz, Karpa, right? All that's right. All that can be between 15 minutes and 42 minutes after sunset, and that gives you a little bit earlier. Now, there are some people, right? And it's maybe you, or maybe a Seder you're going to, or maybe you have to. You feel, like many people who aren't, concerned about these halachot would start a Seder at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., which is a perfectly reasonable time to start dinner, but that's definitely not dark. If you're at a Seder like that, or feel compelled to, what you can do is you can just, you would just, once it gets dark, you just repeat, like you could, if it's you and just do the rituals, and then you have the meal. Once you're eating your meal, then it's nighttime already. So then you flip back in the Haggadah. Maybe you make Kiddush again, or you can read through the Magid section, even quietly, between the soup and the gefilte fish, and then continue and conclude the Seder, with everyone else. So that's, it's obviously not ideal. But if you find yourself in that situation, feel free to we can speak on the phone, next week, in the coming days, and we can just work through just precisely how to do that. But that's advice that people are sometimes given to navigate those situations. Or again, you could do with your kid, again, if your kids are going to, go to bed at their normal bedtime of 7, 8 o'clock. So maybe Pesach afternoon, you have a pre-Yom Tov party, and you eat matzah and karpas, and they sing the songs they learned in school, and you give them a present and put them to bed and said, once there was a mean man named Pharaoh, and God saved us from Pharaoh, and God loves you, and Ima and Daddy love you, and good night. We'll see you in the morning. And that could be your Seder for a 3, 4, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, maybe. I think that could be sufficient until they're older. Okay, so. Oh, okay. So I'll show. Okay, I'll say a word now about some ideas about Haggadot. Okay. There are different theories. I'd say 2 main theories about Haggadah. One is everyone has the same Haggadah, right? And you just get enough of, whether it's Maxwell House or whatever one you like, your favorite one for this year, and you get 15 copies, 20 copies, 10 copies, whatever it is, and everyone has the same. The advantage of having, obviously, everyone with the same Haggadah is you could say, please turn to page 7. Okay, now this is, whatever you're up to, it's easy to like have everyone literally on the same page. For whatever reason, we've never done that in our home. We've always had like, a whole like area of our home with, dozens of different Haggadot, and people come and they take whichever one they wish. And it's a little bit harder. You might get lost a little bit, but the person sitting next to you can help you say, no, here's what we're reading right now. And not all the Haggadot divide the paragraphs exactly the same, but that's okay. Somebody reads a little bit more, a little bit less. Like, that's okay. You gotta like be a little bit flexible and roll with the punches. But I think it's just nice. Like, I think it's just a wonderful expression of like Jewish creativity. So many, some with beautiful artwork and some with really interesting commentary and just, some that are big and small and with great pictures. And I just let people pick one that speaks to them and swap around. And so for us, that's what we do. And it's, again, I see the disadvantage. I see the advantage of having everyone on the same page, literally, but we've never felt worth giving up just the fun of having different Haggadot, and we try to get a new one each year. So I'll show you a few Haggadot that I pulled off the shelf, and I'll say a few words about them. And okay, so this is the New American Haggadah, which it's by this point it's already 10 or 15 years old, I think. And what I really enjoy about it is the translation is just very kind of idiosyncratic and different. Nathan Englander, the novelist, wrote the translation, and that is, I don't know, I think it got like a scathing review. I think Leon Wieseltier wrote a scathing review of the translation. I thought it was ridiculous and said terrible things about it. I think it's just a fun translation. Like, it's different and it makes you think, right? Which is kind of what you, so I like it. So it's definitely not maybe like a great translation from like, I don't know, like what, from like, I guess a professional translator would say, but the translation was written by a great, Jewish American writer. And I think like sometimes the different words kind of spark you to like pay attention in different ways. So it has the full Hebrew text. It has sort of simple illustrations, and it has, a translation by Nathan Englander and some like commentary by some other, like, I don't know, I forget, some like interesting, young-ish, who's it? Nathaniel Deutsch, Jeffrey Goldberg, Rebecca Newberger Goldstein, Daniel Held, Lemony Snicket, and then with a translation edited by Jonathan Safran Foer and a translation by Nathan Englander. So it's like a bunch of like, kind of like, I guess 10, 15 years ago, these were like young, hip Jewish writers and stuff. And I think it's fun. So we have a few copies of these and I enjoy it. One of my favorites is this one by Rabbi David Silver, written with Rachel First. Rabbi Silver is just brilliant. He was the founder of Drisha Institute in New York. It's a brilliant scholar. Sort of when he speaks, starts off kind of slow and like, okay, what's going on here? And then he just brilliant ideas pour out of his mouth. And not so. And I think Rachel First had to like organize his thought into Haggadah. So the first half, I guess the Hebrew half, is just sort of like a very designed to be pretty user-friendly. So there is some translation commentary, but like it's confined to the bottom. And so you can, it's very usable at the Seder, right? Sort of like instructions and basic translation and minimal commentary at the bottom. The back half, or I guess the front half, depending on how you open it, has, I don't know, maybe 10 essays on different aspects of the Passover Seder. So if you're bored during the meal, or more hopefully like maybe before Pesach, you could spend, an afternoon or an evening reading through a few of these essays, and then you sort of and then going into the Seder with having read a few of these essays. I think that sort of adds to the experience, right? Because he's brilliant. The essays are on like significant themes of the Haggadah, like the text of the Haggadah itself is a text to study, as well as themes of right. So Armi Oved Avi, the core text of the Haggadah. Okay, chapter 2, Gerut, Avdut, Inui, the covenantal formula. 3, Exodus, an individual and collective coming of age. Okay, so Korban Pesach, the sacrifice that shaped a nation. So these are like 8 essays, each about, like some foundational theme of the holiday. So that's like great for like preparing in advance, but the actual Haggadah is pretty user friendly. So it's really like, and it's in paperback. You could get multiple copies easily. Sort of similar format is Erica Brown's Haggadah, which I think by now also exists in softcover. She's a great writer, and she has also like the core, like the first half is like a very easy to use Haggadah, minimal commentary on the bottom, straightforward translation. This is an easy Haggadah to use. And the back, I think she also has eight essays in the back, that are very, again, you read a few of them leading up to Passover, and I think it's you come into the holiday with a lot of depth and context, and I think that just enhances your own experience, and maybe even you get some tidbits to share with others. She has an essay on hospitality, which I really like. I actually I wanted to have this dream, like setting it out to the entire show. It's like a really great essay about how to be a good host and how to be a good guest. It's like really, it's really nice. I sort of have this fantasy of like distributing it to everyone in the show. She's a great writer and a great person. This is this is a Haggadah for people in particular interested in Halakhah. This is Rav Rimon's Haggadah. He's a great teacher of Halakhah, and he's the rabbi in Alon Shvut. And so he sort of intersperses his Haggadah with sort of interesting essays, mostly focused on legal aspects of the Seder, how to do the various mitzvot of the Seder night. So he's summaries of what what some of the others say. He's also thinking about the four sons and where they come from and their sources in scripture. One nice thing that he endorses and supports in his discussion of halachic aspects of the Seder, which is another thing on my list of talk about, is karpas. Okay, there's a dispute in Halakhah about karpas, about should you have a lot to eat at karpas or very little to eat at karpas. Some eat very little at karpas. Hi, Becky. Because it is if you eat a lot, maybe you have to say a bracha acharona, an after bracha after the karpas, because you don't say a new, we do say a new brei pri adama for the maror, but we don't say after bracha for the karpas. So maybe if you eat less than a kazayid, then it does it. So there's a legitimate and rich halachic debate about how much one should eat at karpas. And many of the sedarim I went to when I was younger, we had like very little bit, not very much to eat at karpas, which is very hard because by then we're all very, very hungry, and they bring out a potato or whatever, and you're hungry, and they give you just a tiny little bit. So the other half of that debate is that you can actually eat a lot at karpas, and you don't have to say an after bracha because you're staying at the table and you're gonna eat later, or maybe you do say an after bracha, that's fine, but you can eat more than a little bit of karpas, and we have turned that into a karpas course, and this really, this was like the biggest innovation, discovery for us that transformed our Seder experience. Especially, we have people in our family, kids, adults, who are a little, their blood sugar drops pretty quickly if they don't eat. And so by the time it's 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock, you're 9:30, you're in Magid, you haven't eaten a real meal in hours and hours. There are people who just do very poorly when they get hungry, and by the time they eat, they feel so sick because they've gone so long without eating. So we turn karpas into like a course, and the theme of the course is anything that has the bracha of brei pri adama, which and can be dipped into something else. That's really all karpas has to be, right? So we serve the classic potato and parsley, and we also serve tara chips. We serve banana, which is brei pri adama. Rabbi Tights of Elizabeth, New Jersey, used to serve bananas as karpas because he thought that was the way to teach everyone that the right bracha for a banana is brei pri adama. Bananas don't grow on trees with branches; they grow on these bushes. So the bracha is brei pri adama. So we serve bananas. You could serve strawberries. Also, strawberries don't grow on trees; they grow on bushes. You could dip strawberries in chocolate. You could, it doesn't have to be parsley and salt water. The point is the dipping. And then we keep the karpas on the table during, some of the items, we keep them on the table during Magid. So no one is, so people maybe eat a little bit less brisket. Okay, they're not as hungry when the meal comes around because they've been nibbling on snacks, but I think it just makes the evening so much more pleasant for people who really don't feel good if they go hours without eating. They don't have that problem. And for everyone, they're just not, you can engage in Magid with a lot more energy, and if you're not they don't have a hunger gnawing at you. So that's, we've done that for many years, and I recommend that. Another Haggadah I really love. This is a few years that we've been using it. This is the graphic novel Haggadah. I love it. I just love it. It's just it has the full text in Hebrew and English, and then it has a running just kind of graphic novel, comic book style interpretation that goes through basically, and it's just gorgeous, right? The beautiful, beautiful illustrations. The illustrations, they really strive to be like really like inclusive. Like I don't know, the cover, just like everyone walking through the Red Sea. It's like, you know, all different kinds of Jews walking through, you know, from all different places and times and, you know, racial backgrounds. It's really beautiful. So I love it. You know, it's obviously we got it for the, you know, for children, but I like looking at it. I think I don't necessarily use it at the Seder, but I look through it every you know, at least every Pesach. And there's just a beautiful Haggadah. And the thought, like the people who wrote it have like backgrounds in comics. I think Grapefruits, he was like a scholar in residence at a shul this past week in Maryland. He's like a, you know, a involved Jew and with a background in comics, and he took this very seriously. It's a beautiful Haggadah. The new Haggadah that we're getting this year has not arrived yet, so I'll share a link. I'll just pitch it. This was Sarah was like an editor for this Haggadah, so that's how I heard about it. It's like a photographer took pictures, and so it's a Haggadah of. I'll put it in the chat. So I think we're getting a copy in the mail. That'll be like our new Haggadah for this year. So it's you can see. So that's, I think, like the Tzio Nazari is like a famous photographer, and so he took a bunch of his pictures and sort of collected them with the classic text of the Haggadah. So I think the commentary is just basically the pictures themselves. I think, which, you know, like pictures tell, right? A picture can tell 1,000 words. So that's the idea. Okay. One other thing I'll just say. Sorry. Back to Erica Brown's Haggadah. She has, for each section, she has like guiding questions that you can like ask people. If you're going around the table and everyone's reading a paragraph, they can also say something in addition to the paragraph. We don't, at this, you know, many meals that we host, if it's a big meal, we have like an icebreaker, go around the table, say where you're from, say a memory of this, say what you know, your favorite ice cream flavor, whatever icebreaker you do. We tend not to do that at the Seder because the numbers are so much larger. If you have 15 people at your table and everyone speaks for 3 minutes, that's 45 minutes of introductions. Like it's like very old, very fast. So we don't do that. What we have done is using some of her prompts, where for a given section, you know, she has like these, you know, I'm trying if I can find, is there a life-defining event or time that you find yourself often thinking about, day and night? If so, why? Think of an opening that you once grabbed that changed your life. Share it. When's the last time you did something for the first time? How was it? Okay. These are very like open-ended questions that are related. You know, she has interspersed throughout the Haggadah, you know, appropriate to the theme of that section of the Haggadah. And I think it's just that's like a nice way to invite people to share like a few times over the course of the night. As you're going around the table, you can kind of, you know, invite your guests to like share a little bit something personal. I think that's a way to, you should at the end of the night, you should know something more. There's be a bond with the people who celebrated the Seder together. And I think that's a way to encourage people to be a little more open with others, and even just open to themselves, that they should like just be open to being transformed by the experience of the night. So I think that's another nice thing about her Haggadah. She has these like kind of open-ended, a little more existential questions. So instead of like introductions at the beginning, we've encouraged people through the years to like to share a little bit like from her collection of questions. Whew, okay, I've spoken for a long time. Any questions, comments, reactions, things I missed, things you want me to speak more about?
No, maybe differences from different Haggadahs or on the Seder plate where you have different things.
Oh yeah,
that's so confusing, and also sometimes also what we eat. It'll depend from one Haggadah.
Yeah.
My parents were German Jews, so they didn't eat at all the same way more, you know, than we do here. So.
Yeah. So I think those are all wonderful traditions to like bring, like to highlight the difference. And I think that's, you know, not to be embarrassed about it. That's like thank God, like Jews have lived all sorts of places and have adopted all sorts of customs. So some years like my wife has made like multiple kinds of charoset, from like we have like some cookbook of like like international Jewish cooking from around the world, whatever, cookbooks like that you can find on the internet, so there's the Moroccan charoset, the Italian charoset, the like the classic Eastern European charoset, and with wine and without wine, the alcoholic version and the non-alcoholic, and I think it's nice. I think that's a way to, like, here's, like, I grew up with a very, I think, traditional Eastern European charoset. It was like apples and nuts and, and I didn't really particularly like it. And then once we started these, I found, like the Italian kind, which had figs or whatever, dates, that I really like that. And but more important than just like, oh, I found, the variety of charoset that I like, I think it's the chance to learn about different Jewish communities. And especially if people are at the table, they can share, you could ask the guest to bring, maybe, like bring a charoset, what's if you're, what charoset do you have in your family? Could you bring some, or just tell us about it? We're all going to dip our maror in charoset. So like, what do you, what's your charoset? I think that's fine. In terms of like, other, marors of interesting maror, romaine lettuce seems to be like the preferred, or endive is maybe the preferred maror for the mitzvah of eating the bitter herb. Romaine lettuce is not all that bitter anymore. I think it used to be much more bitter, but over the hundreds of years, they've been breeding it to be a little bit less bitter. We also use some horseradish for, added, which is not really bitter. Horseradish is sharp. It's not really bitter, but it's like, I don't know, it's become very, so the romaine is actually, that's probably what you're fulfilling the mitzvah with. That's like, in the Mishnah thousands of years ago, like this is one of the species that the Mishnah lists, but we, that's my contribution to the Seder is Erev Pesach. I take a chunk of horseradish root and I grind it in the food processor, and my eyes are, and I try to seal it up, get all the sharpness in a Tupperware, and then, then whatever, my face turns red and at the Seder, and it's, clear out my sinuses. So that's part of my, that's what I do. But I think it's just nice to invite people to share and talk. And I think people want, because many people that they have like memories of their childhood and like this is what we used to do, right? And so if they're,
I was just curious if there's a right way and a wrong way.
Yeah. So I think like the most things, no. For charoset, there's no right way or wrong way. I think whatever you want is fine. For maror, I think you should have like some amount of the romaine or endive, which I think fulfills the mitzvah. Like the Mishnah lists a certain species of plant, and horseradish didn't exist in, like there are like archaeologists who have studied this and feel very firm that horseradish was not grown in Eretz Yisrael in the time of the Mishnah. So that seems to be a later addition, but like it's late, but for many generations, Jews have been eating it, and my whole life we've been eating it. So I'm not going to stop with that. So we do both, and other things, we have a custom, we serve an egg as the first course, so that's a thing we do. Like I don't know why, but we do that. So I don't really like the egg, but we do it. So
I'm sorry to interrupt, Rabbi.
Yeah.
I thought that was korban chagiga or something.
I think that's the egg on the Seder plate. I guess I never knew that. Like I don't think like that you're right. That is why we have the egg on the Seder plate, as like but to actually eat it like that, I don't know. Like that seemed, I don't know. I guess it makes sense if it's there, it should be eaten. But but that's not.
That seemed like a later addition to our Seder growing up. I remember.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And we also had, and I don't even know why my father's experience was for maror, we would use horseradish, but then for korach, we would use romaine.
Well, that's interesting. Maybe to fulfill both options or something. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So we put both. We use the horseradish and the romaine, both for maror and for korach. We also do both. I mean, another thing to look, there's like in terms of like the sizes and stuff, I don't know if that's like, like in the lab, that's, for, no one ever, in the last 50 years, people have become, many Orthodox Jews have become more strict about eating larger quantities of matzah and maror, based on looking in the books about how big is a kazayit, how big is how big are the, and then you find these charts of this, this size, and, no one used those charts, 100 years ago. No one, looked at a book to learn how much matzah to eat, because in a traditional society, your grandfather broke up a piece of matzah and gave it to you. And everyone's grandfather broke up a pizza matzah and gave it to them. And that's everyone you knew did that their whole lives. And everyone they knew did that for generations back. And you never, and it's only World War I and World War II and the breakdown of traditional society and immigration and to America and everything, sort of now we don't have that like sense of like tradition, and we just like all know instinctively what to do. So we look at the books, and when we look at the books, sometimes they tell us to do things a little bit differently. So, like so I don't know. I can't. If that speaks to you, then you can look at the books and you can have a larger quantity. If you feel, like an olive is the size of an olive, and I know what an olive looks like, and I know what my parents and grandparents, broke off for me. I think that's a very legitimate approach to take as well. Okay. Any other comments? I have one last piece I can share. This is a little piece of.
Does anyone use these pillows?
Use what?
Pillows.
Pillows, yes, we do pillows. I don't think we don't have like enough pillows for everyone, but we make pillows available. Some years I wear like a kittel also. It's like when I can find it and clean it in time, I can wear a kittel. I think that's nice. All these I think those are wonderful traditions. If it's they express something about the holiday, and they're traditions that connect us to the past and invite other people to share their own traditions, because then they feel that they're invested in what's going on. And similarly, like the pouring wine for others, that's something we've picked at some point. We picked that up in our family. So for each of the 4 cups, we asked someone sitting next to us to pour the wine for us. 4 cups of wine, you should drink most of the cup. You may want to invest in like cups of the right size, right? Maybe not such giant cups, because unlike Kiddush on Shabbat, you only have to drink a little sip. In fact, you don't have to drink it at all. One person makes Kiddush, you can hand the cup to someone else and they could sip, and everyone's fulfilled their mitzvah. The 4 cups at the Seder, each person there should drink for him or herself 4 cups, which means most of the cup itself. So maybe invest in small cups so that you don't pass out, or not, grape juice or low alcohol wine if that's your thing. But that's like a difference between Passover and Shabbat.
Is it okay to mix grape juice and wine or no?
Yes. Yeah. They actually, you can actually buy. I think Kedem sells premix. It's called like a. I think it was something red. They have like low alcohol wine that they. It's like they did the mixing for you, so you're gonna have to mix it with the grape juice. You can switch to the Moscato at the end of for the second half, which is a little bit lighter. Whatever works. So here's one little. I'm going to share a little. It's like a little Torah commentary, and then we'll wrap it up. But please follow up, send emails, call, text, whatever in the coming days. This is. I'll share it in the chat. This is like a little piece of. Chassidut, but it wasn't really. It was actually written by like a friend of mine. Okay, so he was not a chassid. He's a modern Orthodox rabbi, but he was sort of inspired to write in this. So I'll read and I'll translate. This is based on the biur chametz, right? We nullify chametz and we burn it and we declare it, right? So Yodei misifrei halacha sheyesh shnei drachim hasir chametz me'erushischa. There are 2 ways to get rid of chametz. Binyan chametz. What does chametz mean? What's it symbolic of perishah? Kol minei hit nasud v'gaiva machshavot kashot shegorem ladam ein yochol lasot ma shetzrich lasot. Right. So chametz here symbolically is it's arrogance, right? If things makes us puffed up, and all these hard thoughts that stop us from doing what we're supposed to do. Okay, bavor chametz, that's the chametz in our heart. Okay, v'tzrich lasir chametz. So as we're just cleaning our homes from chametz, we should also clean out the chametz from our hearts. And there are 2 ways. So just as there are 2 ways to get rid of actual physical chametz, there are 2 ways to remove chametz from our hearts. So derech achad, right? Just as we search every corner of our home for the crumbs and the pieces and the cookies that in the bags that we left in, like the shalach manas that's still in our coat pocket. Okay, we search at our homes for that chametz. So you can do that with your personality, with your heart. Okay, metaphorically, you can search out all of your character traits and try to remove the parts that are problematic. Shel kol chamira tahainu hagid shekol chametz nishar belibo eino nechshav klum. The chametz batel ka'afrid are. And the other way we get rid of chametz, we just declare it. We just say it's all null. It's all like the dust of the earth. Okay. The 2 ways to get rid of chametz: to search for it and to declare it nullified. The Gemara asks, all the halachic sources ask, why do we need 2 different ways to get rid of chametz. We search our homes and we declare no. It really should only be one as necessary. See the okay, you want to see like the basic answer? There are halakhic answers to that. The Talmud says, lest you come across a tasty morsel and get tempted even after you've nullified. Okay, the secret, the deeper meaning is we need both of them actually. Because you can't scrutinize your own actions with enough in a comprehensive enough way. You'll always miss something. You can't actually fix your entire personality just through introspection. It's not going to work. Sometimes you see it. It's very hard to get rid of it. And it's very hard to root these sources again: arrogance, pride, anger, etc., etc. You don't actually have to get rid of them. Just cover them up and say it's nullified. Okay, it's like it doesn't exist. And at least for the duration of Pesach, that works. And so I think so. Again, on the level of the Halakhah, this is certainly true, right? We do both. We clean our homes and we declare the chametz null. And maybe on the symbolic level as well, we want to do some introspection. We want to examine and remove the parts of us that stand in the way of being who we should be: anger, pride, jealousy, greed, all those nasty things. Okay, but you can't actually, it's impossible to actually find everything in every hidden part of our heart. And sometimes if you find it, you still can't quite get rid of it, at least not easily. And so we have this other method. Okay, we could just say, all right, I'm just going to cover it up. I'm going to say it's nullified, and I can enter into the holiday. My jealousy, my anger, my pride, my greed are not going to be barriers to my celebration of the holiday. So that was a sweet interpretation of this. Written like a few weeks ago in the spirit of a classic Hasidic text. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. And again, wishing you all a joyous Pesach. To see you in the shul in the coming days. And again, please reach out if any other questions or ideas you have. I'd love to be a resource in the remaining days. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All right, good night.